So today we're diving into the story of Mohenjo-Daro, one of the world's very first great cities. Now think about ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia. Mohenjo-Daro was right there with them, a true marvel of the Bronze Age. But in a lot of ways, it's a much, much bigger mystery. I want you to just travel back in time with me for a second. It's around 2600 BC. You're standing in a massive, bustling metropolis. It's one of the biggest cities in the ancient world, a major hub for the huge Indus Valley Civilization. We actually have no idea what the people who lived there called their own city. That name is completely lost. It's only centuries later that it got its modern name, a pretty haunting one, Mohenjo-Daro, the city of the dead. And we're not talking about some small settlement here. At its peak, the Indus Valley Civilization was an absolute superpower. The territory it covered was enormous, bigger than ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia put together. But, for all its size and incredible sophistication, its story is just packed with unanswered questions. Okay, so let's start with the city itself, because when you really zoom in and look at how it was designed, you find stuff that is just astonishingly modern. First off, forget everything you picture when you think of an ancient city. The winding, chaotic, messy layouts. Mohenjo-Daro was meticulously planned. Its main streets were laid out in a grid, intersecting at perfect right angles. That's a feature that wouldn't become common for thousands of years. And this incredible planning went way beyond just the streets. The whole city was basically split into two main parts. You had a raised western mound, what we call the citadel, which had all the important public buildings, and then you had the much larger lower city off to the east, which is where most of the people actually lived and worked. The engineering here was just on another level. They were mass-producing, standardized, baked bricks to build everything, from multi-story homes to huge public buildings. And the most famous of these is probably the Great Bath, this massive, perfectly waterproofed public pool that was almost certainly used for important rituals. But what might be the most impressive thing of all was their sanitation system, truly one of the first in the world. They had covered drains running under the main streets, carrying wastewater away from people's homes. This level of public hygiene was absolutely revolutionary. To put it in perspective, some parts of Europe wouldn't see systems this good for another 4,000 years. Just think about it. So, a city this organized, this planned, well, it screams that there was a powerful authority pulling all the strings. But here's the puzzle. Archaeologists have found no grand palaces, no lavish royal tombs, none of the usual signs you'd expect to find for a king or a pharaoh. And this question, it leads us to one of the biggest mysteries of the entire Indus Valley Civilization. If there was no obvious king, who was in charge? For a long, long time, our best guess, our main clue, came from one single, really iconic little statue. And this is it. This is the so-called priest king. It was discovered way back in the 1920s. And this tiny stone figure, it's less than 7 inches tall, it basically became the face of Indus Valley leadership. For decades, this was our best guess at what an Indus ruler might have actually looked like. But here's the thing, that name, Priest King, is almost certainly wrong. It was really just a label of convenience. The early archaeologists who found it were thinking about what they knew from places like Mesopotamia. The truth is, there is zero other evidence to support the idea of one all-powerful ruler. In fact, the statue itself wasn't even found in a place of honor like a temple or a palace. So this just completely changes our understanding, right? Instead of some single autocratic ruler, the thinking now is that power was way more decentralized. Maybe the city was run by a council or a committee of elites, powerful merchants, clan leaders, big landowners. And that would totally explain how you can have this incredible organization without needing a palace. Okay, so while we don't know exactly who was calling the shots, we do know what fueled their civilization. It was a massive, highly organized economic engine. One that was built on trade, not on war. And these people were master traders. Their network stretched for hundreds and hundreds of miles, connecting them with major players in Mesopotamia, Central Asia, and the Arabian Gulf. They were shipping out things like cotton and pottery, and bringing in luxury goods like beautiful lapis lazuli from what's now Afghanistan, precious gemstones, and metals. Now, a key tool for managing all this trade was something called the Indus seal. Thousands of these small, carved stone objects have been found. Each one is unique, with these cool animal designs and a script that we still can't read, by the way. They were used to stamp clay tags on goods, kind of like an ancient brand logo or an official seal of approval.
And to make sure that trade was fair across this huge network, they developed a standardized system of weights and measures. It's really brilliant. These precise, cube-shaped stone weights were used across the entire civilization, which is a classic sign of a really sophisticated, centrally managed economy. But then, after nearly 1,000 years of prosperity, this incredible civilization just faded away. Its magnificent cities were abandoned, its complex script was totally forgotten, and its people just seemed to vanish from history. Sometime around 1900 BC, something went very, very wrong. People started leaving the big cities like Mohenjo-Daro, and over the next few centuries, the whole urban culture just collapsed, eventually disappearing completely until it was rediscovered by archaeologists in the 1920s. So, what happened? Well, there probably wasn't just one single cause. It was more like a perfect storm of factors. The leading theory today points to climate change. We think shifts in the monsoon rains and the drying up of major rivers would have just wrecked their agricultural system. And that could have been made even worse by disruptions to their trade networks and maybe even social unrest from within. And all of that brings us to today, because the story of Mohenjo-Daro isn't just about figuring out the past, it's also about our responsibility to protect its future.
Back in 1980, the world officially recognized just how profoundly important these ruins are, and Mohenjo-Daro was named a UNESCO World Heritage Site, giving it the highest level of international protection. But even that incredibly prestigious designation is not enough to save it. The ancient city is now facing a whole new set of threats from the modern world. And in a really grim, ironic twist, the very same environmental forces that might have helped cause its original decline are now threatening to wipe away what's left. Its location right next to the Indus River makes it incredibly vulnerable to floods, while wind and rain are just slowly, relentlessly wearing away the 4,500-year-old bricks. So this leaves us with a final and really urgent question. As we continue to uncover the secrets of this lost megacity, we're also in a race against time to save it. So how do we act as responsible custodians for a piece of our shared past that, honestly, we're still just beginning to understand?